this is, and I won't go through as in depth that I was planning, but basically this is the MJ-12 document. And like I said, this is a controversial document. The FBI will say it's bogus. Robert Wood and Linda Moulton Howe have done a lot of research, as well as Stan Freeman, RIP, to validate and prove that they feel this is a actual authentic document. But this, and all these things are linked in the description of the YouTube video for people to really digest and go more in depth. But this really does go into basically the protocol to deal with extraterrestrial entities and technology. And it's really eerie and crazy how much they talk about things that, you know, what we say, how would they handle these kind of things, they go into. So just give people a little bit of a teaser. Essentially, though, they say, you know, MJ-12 takes the subject of UFOBs, extraterrestrial technology, and extraterrestrial biological entities very seriously, and considers the entire subject matter to be of the highest national security. Everything has been assigned the very highest security classification. 3 main points will be covered: the general aspects of MJ-12, the importance of operations, and the need for absolute secrecy in all phases of operation. And one little thing to note on what you said is like, and then this is, I think, a very natural and very normal and reasonable question or pushback from people, is how would they keep this secret? This gets into how they keep it secret. And people who have worked in very classified programs can help, I think, illuminate how things are kept secret in our government. I mean, we know famously, obviously, the Manhattan Project had, I think, like 40, 50,000, a pretty high amount of people working on it. And that was maintained completely secret until the actual bombs were dropped. When Lazar talks about, whether you believe it or not, working at S4 at Area 51, he talks about their process and others. It's very compartmentalized. It's very much a need-to-know basis. And it's also a big reason why they say they haven't made a lot of progress, because scientists aren't working with each other and sharing information. You're only seeing one specific, very, very specific part of the engine. You're only seeing one very specific part of the craft. And so you don't know what the other guy's working on. You can't share research papers, you know, and that was one of the things different that the Nazis were doing, is they were sharing with each other. You know, we have compartmentalized everything for these exact reasons. They will sometimes give false information to find leaks, and there's these tactics we talked about. But bottom line is, like, yeah, the government, the CIA will have anonymous leaks with like policy and reasons to maybe invade a nation, sometimes be leaked to anonymous news source. And we know about Operation Mockingbird and how they kind of push agendas to then allow us to, you know, basically go somewhere and you know, this economic hitman type approach. But when it comes to, and Christopher Mellon just said this on Rogan, when it comes to keeping secrets, when it comes to like weapons and serious like tech and blueprints and things that aren't really sexy as a press release, we're really good at that. And those are the things that really are the nuts and bolts that we're talking about here. Physical evidence, physical blueprints, physical bodies, you know, real hard evidence that deals with this stuff. I would argue, using various things I'm just referring to and other things, that we actually are, when it comes to these things, really good at keeping a secret. And there are ways outlined going back as early as this I think this was like right after the war, document of how they go about it. So quickly, you know, touching on that, essentially they talk about the history of the group, and this is where it was important. It was established by a special classified presidential order on September 24th, 1947, at the recommendation of Secretary of Defense James Forrestal and Dr. Vannevar Bush, chairman of the Joint Research and Development Board. Operations are carried out under a top-secret research and development intelligence group directly responsible only to the President of the United States. The goals of the MJ-12 group are as follows: the recovery of scientific study of all materials and devices, foreign or extraterrestrial; the recovery for scientific study of all entities and remains of entities not of terrestrial origin, which may become available through independent action by those entities or by misfortune or military action; the establishment and administration of special teams to accomplish the above operations; the establishment and administration of special secure facilities located at secret locations within the continental borders of the U.S. for receiving, processing, analysis, and scientific study of any and all material entities classified as being of extraterrestrial origin. So this is Grom Lake, this is S4, this is all these facilities you hear about on these deep underground military bases. This is where they would spend trillions of dollars without it causing massive hyperinflation in our economy, is building massive infrastructure to support this whole operation that Dolan and Alton Fitz feel is where that money's going. Covert operations, establishing those to be carried out in concert with the Central Intelligence to effect the recovery of the United States of extraterrestrial tech and entities which may come down inside the territory or fall into possession of foreign powers. The establishment and maintenance of absolute top secrecy concerning all the above operations. They get into a little bit of the current situation. It's nothing too big there. Let's see, they described the craft, elliptical or disc-shaped craft. This type of craft is a medical construction, dull aluminum color. No seams or joints are visible on the surface, giving the impression of a one-piece construction. That's exactly the same thing that Lazar talked about. He said no seams or joints. It was completely, looked like it would just been 3D printed. 50 to 300 feet in diameter, and thickness is approximately 15% of the diameter. The next craft is fuselage or cigar-shaped crafts. I mean, these are all the exact descriptions of craft and that we see that are the major reports. You know, this one they say could be 2,000 feet long and 95 feet thick, which is massive. They apparently don't operate in lower atmosphere. The other one is ovoid or circular shaped craft. An ice cream cone being rounded at large and end and tapering, so that's a little bit more like a gimbal, maybe one. 30 to 40 feet. And then the triangle shaped craft, which is newer tech, they say. Longest side being nearly 300 feet in length. So those are all the major craft types that we've seen that they describe already early on. The description of biological entities, humanoid, 80 to 100 pounds. These are kind of like the small gray looking type ones they describe here. Then they have a type 2. And then the last key things really is they kind of describe some of the tech, the metallurgy, the debris. It's able to be extremely strong, heat resistant, better than anything we possess or civilian aircraft. It has the appearance of aluminum foil, but it displays none of the characteristics, acting like some kind of unknown plastic material. And then press blackout. So I'll kind of let people dive into this more in depth, but this really gets into specifically how they maintain security and all these things. They talk about where they take the actual craft at this part. All the places that have become notorious now. Area 51 is where they take damaged craft, fragments, actual aircraft. Blue Lab is Wright-Patterson. WP is from what Stan Freeman said. And the KB is Kirkland Air Force Base, is what Freeman said. So they really get into it all in this. And obviously, this document, you know, it's debatable whether you believe it or not. I also gave a link if you guys want to check out just the basics of ufology. And then we also have just a list of UFO sightings on the timeline if you just want to have better context. Goes all the way back to Nuremberg and all the classic ones from the Battle of LA to the sightings over DC in 1952. So there's a bunch of sightings, and it goes all the way up to the O'Hare International Airport, and then after that is obviously the very legitimate ones that we just talked about last podcast. So I'm a strong believer in the more we know, the more we have context, the less we are afraid, right? I think ignorance leads to fear, and then fear can lead to anger and desperate bad actions. And I think that's what this all is ultimately about, is trying to give people more knowledge and context. So if these things really do start to unfold quickly come June, I don't want us to take that fear route, like we were saying in the last episode. You know, I really want us to choose a more loving path that's not the warlike path to go to war with some unknown off-world threat, because there's a good, strong chance that this is a kind of prepping to try to push that agenda. As a lot of people are saying, it's a psyop to push that, you know. There's a very good chance of that, but that doesn't mean it's an absolute. It's a guarantee that that's going to happen. We still have the numbers. We still are the people, and we can still really push back against that occurring and saying no, you know, and we won't get into as much, but you know, the more context you have, the less you can get played, the less you can get exploited, the less you can get taken advantage of. So, you know, that's kind of my goal and hope with all this is, look, we might not say everything is exactly true, but at least you'll have a lot more context to make a more informed decision as these things start to unfold, because like you said, this is a serious precipice point, and you know, I want it to go the right way. You know, I think we all do, who are rational, good people.
Here's the statement I'll leave y'all on. I think that whatever is happening here, if it's spiritual, if it's metaphysical, if it's just propaganda, whatever it is, it requires us to get more engaged and to have an open mind and to start considering that there's more stuff to consider here. And I'll point out DMT Quest in the comments there. That's John Chavez, And, he and I have talked about where even DMT Quest is going to go, talking about endogenous DMT and the fact that we have drugs in us at all times. And you could say we're honestly on DMT at all times. And how DMT kind of comes into the conversation of what are some of these, extraterrestrial or pan-dimensional or hyperdimensional, crypto-terrestrial creatures. I want to get deeper into that because I really do feel that that's also coming to a fore. Psychedelic renaissance is coming to a fore. There's legit, Imperial College London, that's a legit university that's like, yeah, let's put people under high doses of DMT for extended periods of time. Why? Not because we think it's going to help with headaches or back pain or anything like that, but because people keep saying they communicate or have experiences with extremely intelligent creatures. Meanwhile, we're talking about UFOs and UAPs on 60 Minutes, and we're having these conversations. Something's going on, so keep engaged, find your voice. Don't tune anything out. If it's starting to come up, take a look at it. Don't get swept away at it, but at least start building the context that we're trying to build here. And is there anything you wanted to leave everyone on, Gordo?
I'm just excited. I'm excited to have this conversation. I'm excited as things continue to develop. And yeah, I mean, I think it gives us a lot. It gives me a lot of optimism. I don't rely on this to be the sole reason, but I don't know, man. When I look up at the stars now, it's different. I'll just leave it at that.
Touche. I could say the same thing after I did DMT the first time. I don't look at the stars or plants or myself, my hands, the same way. Make sure you all head over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member. You'll have access to the growing library of deeper dives where I talk about all the stuff that I really can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you get involved in the Discord chat. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening, talking about new theories, being able to interweave into the greater conversation that is how we awaken infinity. That's our highest potential. And I just want to remind you, you are the most powerful technology ever known to creation. Wield it like an artist with a conscience.